as well at the start?
Well, we'll do that. Hi, hello everyone. This is Ryan Erickson and Niels Pflaeging on the right-hand side of your screen. We are coming here very much in the spirit of improvisation and being, we're two bass players, of course, so that does kind of lead to a Spinal Tap-ish kind of vibe, but I'll hang with it. The theme for today is a closer look at the status of transformation in the year of our supreme architectural being of the universe, 2026. Where are we? And thinking that the Beta Codex network in general, arrived in 2008. This is 18 years of this work as it has been named Beta.
Yes.
And you've had a lot going on, the transformation cases with TOSD as well, and TOSD happening. So this is a form and a format for us to just get back into the groove and see what's what.
And where do we stand today after 18 years? Where are we? Where are we now?
Well, where is that a question for me to kind of say where I think we are now?
You can jump in. What do you think, Ryan? Where are we now as the Beta Codex network with regards to transformation cases, transformational work, and so on?
Well, when I came around here, this is only about 5 years ago or so. There was not a lot necessary. Well, maybe I hadn't seen at that point. There wasn't as much going on. There were very individual transformation cases, a lot in Germany. And I knew some of the folks, and I think Torsten was involved in one of the last name.
Who was one of the first open space beta clients, yes, with this company.
Yeah, and open space beta was just kind of arriving in that, and I think what strikes me is it's almost like an exponential growth in clients. I was watching as you and Silko got clients all over the world, and you were traveling all over the world. That the message of democratization, decentralization, federalization was spreading to others, like Ernesto, for example, in Argentina, as a result of the work that you had done down there. And I think the depth of the work is what's impressed me. And from the outside looking in, I can only imagine the learning that you have had in guiding the transformation and being in with the clients. So I think for me, if I would say one thing, it's just about the diversity of perspective around what beta is and how it lives in the world. So.
I mean, you when you just mentioned Thorsten Porath and the work we did there 5 or 6 years ago, it was during COVID, 5 years ago, I think, probably. It feels like an eternity ago,
Yeah.
Wow. And you are right. So many things are happening, not all of them always visible to everyone, which is why we set up this session and this topic, right? To talk about things that to us may be obvious or that are part of our work that may not be so visible. I would also ask you, Ryan, you started a year ago or so maybe to work with Peter Block. Would you that work is transformational? Would you say it allows you to plug in some of the beta stuff?
Oh, absolutely. It's at the core of, again, I was involved in this work before I even knew who Peter Block was. And every time
you only discovered him in earnest during our podcast together, right? We had a conversation about, could we invite Peter Block? He lives in your city. We came, and then we did 2 wonderful podcast sessions with him. We got to know him. You got to know him even more, and now you work with him, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and that the idea of that it is important for people to be together in conversation, choosing what they want to have happen where they are. In his working community, that so much it resonated with me when I was in the beta taking in all the work that we have been talking about. I want to say one thing in specific that you told me about the Confronting Our Freedom book in 2023. And I was like, oh, whatever. Okay, great. You have all these wonderful books, and you told me about this one. You're very, very high on that book. And then in 2024, I bought it for myself for my birthday, and it was just like, okay, now the pieces are starting to come together about people being almost brutally responsible for their own agency and in organization, and the whole idea that leaders on top really ought not be the point.
Yes.
And to hear that not only from you, who we had been talking for a while, but from another person who is well respected in organization development, was that energized me a lot. And now in our work that we do now, working with community, and in local here in Cincinnati, Ohio, where we do the work in neighborhood-based work, very intimate work. It is so much of a pattern that I now notice from what we talk about in Beta Codex Network, is that the small groups are the units of transformation, and that in the way that the 6 conversations work, that's Peter Block's way of framing how people come together.
Yes.
It very much mirrors open space, that we have a large group, we have a network of folks that we assemble into little cells who get into communication and depth and this idea of social density. So
Yes.
all I think conceptually it tied it together for me a lot.
Yes.
And what I'm hoping to do now is that we talk about open space beta, and that coming from the lineage of Dan Mezek, that what's inspiring me now is how does this apply in community development? And so what is open space community development, and how do we bring the patterns of decentralization, democratization, and federalization to communities and entities that aren't as tightly bound as organizations that you would do a beta transformation with? So
And how to bring time boxing to that kind of work.
that is one thing I hope we talk about today as well, because there's time-oriented software development is it's a nice way of framing that as well.
Yes.
And bringing time orientation to almost a atomic level, to individual and very small group, that we can orient time oriented fashion in that way as well. So
yes, there's a lot of stuff. I mean,
a lot of stuff.
Last week I attended a conference on the study of time in Italy, on Sardinia. Did you know that?
I saw that you were in Sardinia, and that was. I'm very curious about the conference. Yeah,
that was never fun. So I participated in a research conference organized by ISST, the International Society of the Study of Time. Nobody knows them. But about 80, 90 people gathered for that conference, a 1-week conference, researchers from all kinds of areas. So I got deep into the nerdy stuff on time. And I just came before this podcast session. I'm coming straight from a Comenius session that we tested, a new Comenius session about the topic of time-oriented software development that we tested together. And of course, those modules, that content and that methodology or didactics is also using time boxing. Every session is time boxed to 90 minutes. Every page of the modules is time boxed to the amount of seconds, can be 30 seconds, can be 6 minutes or so. So yeah, we in the last years since the time we met or so, we have discovered a lot of applications of time orientation, starting with open space beta, then into how to structure learning in the time box way. Then time-oriented software development, time-oriented work systems. We are discovering so many facets of time orientation, which is, I think, a huge breakthrough, which also asks the question of, okay, what's the state of organizational transformation? Well, we know it has to be fast. We know it has to be time-boxed. We know that time is of the matter. Time is a key structure, key architecture. Yeah, that we have to.
And it is, well, sure. It's even lower than that. I think it's the infrastructure, because it is the one boss that you have.
Yes, the one resource and the one boss that we cannot escape. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the, and of course there are cases. I think I love to hear your observation that at the time things felt kind of lonely and slow, and not much seemed to be going on 5 years or 6 years ago, and now all kinds of things. I also have that impression. All kinds of things are happening.
Yeah.
In terms of methods that we have developed, myself at work is starting to boom. Comenius, that's the personality diagnostics that Silke developed. We will talk about that in another episode, I think, very soon.
Yeah.
Comenius is starting to take off right now. One of my clients is starting to use it in the context of TOSD transformation. So yeah, they are using our new Comenius modules about TOSD with 130 people or so. So things are really happening. A lot of things are happening, and we do the consulting work as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Comenius is a great example of that, because now that I think back to when I first started really engaging with the Beta Codex,
Yes.
it came from the predecessor to Comenius, and how that discourse didactics and that framing of learning in that way, in terms of discourse didactics and the time box and the 90-minute sessions, and that felt to me very liberating, very much about agency and about invitation, and I learned more about that, but it never really launched into the world as deeply as Comenius has now.
Yes.
And that is another thing. Oh, well, I was around when this was kind of more conceptual, at least from my mode, and that it's now real. It is happening. It's if you.
At the time we met during COVID, we were still developing the system. Then we launched it 2022. I'm not quite sure. I would have to look it up. Yeah. And we had our development in Croatia at the time. It had another name. I mean, first it had the name Learning Circles by Red 42. Then we gave it the name Discourse, and now it's called Comenius with a Q. And yes, it has been I think one of the struggles there has been that we developed it to use it in transformation. We developed a learning platform to use it in transformational work. Yeah. But that made it very narrow in its application. And we have been broadening it since for 6 years now. We have been broadening the scope to all kinds of topics, all kinds of applications, all kinds of learning and social organizations and so on. So yeah, and I think we now mastered it. We now in Comenius we have so many interventions embedded in our systems. No other learning platform has so many cool features. You might call them gamifications even. So it's really hilarious and short. These 90-minute sessions, they go by so fast. I just had one, and it never feels like 90 minutes. It feels like, okay, might be 60 minutes, but never an hour and a half.
Well, my experience is you always feel like you're wanting for more. Like, and that puts that hunger. Oh, I want more. I want more conversation.
Yes, yeah. It's such to be in conversation with others, in serious conversation, and in a time box fashion, and guided by the content. It makes it's such a different experience. It's kind of mind blowing. It's kind of magical, really, very different. Yeah. And yes, I think it took us a long time to get that. Let's say also to get the business model straight for Comenius, to get the business model straight for myself at work, to get the business model straight for TOSD has been taking us a few months as well. I think we've been fast, and we're still figuring things out. But yeah, I'm happy that we have TOSD clients now, that are doing time-oriented software development in earnest, and yeah. And this is the year where things start moving a little bit easier.
It is. It's popping. It's popping a lot. So again, time-oriented software development comes up. There's also that leads very nicely into beta transformation and cell structure design, and again, open space beta, bringing all of the beauty together, and then Comenius as a delivery platform for lack of a better term, for learning inside that space and that container. That is also, it is time as the boss. So all of these things being integrated and continuing to integrate deeply, is that to me is exciting and
It is.
very interesting, and it
By
keeps me
the way,
engaged in the work.
I would like to see Comenius being used by you guys in the community work. I think it would be of great use, to use it with communities, because it would enable to, to have conversation, unsupervised conversation, but I think it could be very useful to community work as well. It will be. The content needs to be defined and designed so that it can work, of course.
Yeah, well, again, this is one way to invite people to engage in content that may be unfamiliar, or a way of looking at a particular domain that's unfamiliar or unusual. I mean, what we do
it requires discussion where there's disagreement, constant disagreement. It's like it's a bit. Comenius is a little bit like open space. It works best for topics that are conversational, that are disputed, where there is not a single truth, where there's no right or wrong, but there is ambiguity and space to be explored and complexity.
And many different, it's the categorical definition of the input criteria for open space being a business problem that is, it's a huge problem, lots of complexity, lots of diversity, lots of potential for conflict, and a deadline of yesterday, which is, there's that time orientation coming in again. If there's no time box, if there's no time element, where's the juice in the conversation? And that, it just, again, it really makes so much sense. And thinking about Comenius in the community development phase, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we have in our Common Good Alliance, we have these 5 domain pillars that we talk about. There's land, housing, arts and culture, community capital, and local enterprise and neighborhood economics. So all of those topic areas, and you have general topic areas, and you get into, well, what does land use mean for us here in this neighborhood? And there's so many different ways of doing it. And if you seed those conversations in different ways, it's, the possibilities are wonderful. And I'm very interested in bringing these kind of, I would call Comenius one of the common good protocols that we talk about. Which we can certainly go into that when we go into the episode. So.
Yes. Let's talk about transformation.
Yes.
In
2026. So in 2026, you've had a couple of transformations, and they've been really centered around TOSD, if I'm correct. Do you have? And so one of them, again, it comes to mind. We had a brief discussion about this online. There was a company, I think it's in Poland, that you encountered that was having the issues we talked about, software maintenance and technical debt. Would you mind sharing with me the input to that particular transformation, as it's so recent? How did that happen?
Ongoing. This case is ongoing. They are in the process of adopting TOSD with 130 developers approximately, and some of them are in Poland, some are in. I won't say the name of the company because it's not. It's not. Maybe later, but still, that company, it's based in Scandinavia. They have developers there in Finland and in Poland and in the Netherlands. And 3 weeks ago or so, 3 to 4 weeks ago, over a period of 2 weeks, I went to those different locations. We did several introductory sessions to TOSD, because we do Comenius sessions with that client as well, so that everybody can learn, in virtual self-guided sessions or self-organized sessions without any observer, without any facilitator. They do those learning sessions, but we also want to This is something that we always suggest in TOSD, to do some impulse sessions where you have the opportunity to meet face to face, in groups, maybe up to 15 people, and where you can get an introduction to TOSD, discuss the questions. It's also a wonderful opportunity to see what bothers the company, what they are worried about. And one of the things that came up that I mentioned to you was, again, it's a software company, it's a tech company. And one of the topics that came up was maintenance and technical debt. Technical debt, not so much as the main topic, but maintenance came up in every conversation. And we had several of those, and always at a certain point you could measure it. After 30 minutes or 50 or an hour, somebody would start talking about maintenance and how that is impossible to integrate in the TOSD system because it's ongoing and so on. Yeah. Why did you find that interesting?
I found it interesting because I have heard that theme for decades, about that this technical debt is the thing that Agile is supposed to solve, and that maintenance has to be only be done in a particular way, that has to be done in this free-flowing way, and it can't be controlled. Control is a whole other thing, but it's just been a long time topic and coming a bit from that environment. That's why I was interested as what is in 2026 that's still happening, and how we're approaching that topic differently through TOSD.
But I think I was astonished at that client that the topic came up, and as supposedly a hurdle to moving to TOSD, time-oriented software development, and that it was supposedly impossible to deal with maintenance in a time-boxed way of working, which is not. By the way, I learned from all those discussions that maintenance in software development is not a thing, that it doesn't exist, right? The existence of maintenance needs to be questioned, like the existence of technical debt. It's just a myth. It's just a way of framing things in a nasty way, of downplaying some people's work. I think maintenance as well. It's tagging the work as dirty, bad, boring, stupid, nasty, repetitive.
Yeah, that work is not valuable because it's working on the old stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Because of course maintenance doesn't exist. It's just you develop things, and some of the things are new, some of the things are changing parts of the software, of the tech, or they are incremental or whatever, but to talk of maintenance, and in my mind, maybe this is an old topic. I may not be aware of a larger discussion in software development about that topic, but I hadn't encountered that discussion. So to me, it took me a while to understand, okay, why is this coming up? Why is it some kind of defense mechanism? And yes, I think it is. Well, it's a way of saying, let's keep things as they are.
Well, it's also an expression of alpha in a way. So you have developers here, you have asset manager here, hardware here, you have maintenance here.
Yes.
And so each manager has,
and testers,
and business, and each of those silos has to have a manager, and they have to have a budget, and all that kind of garbage. And that's, again, it's just a symptom of the way of it always has to be this way. Well, we're going to do Agile in this tower, but we're not going to do it over there.
It's I understood that as well, that it's when those terms like maintenance come up, or the same goes for technical debt that we mentioned, but also for stuff like interdependencies. Oh, these things are interdependent, but that's just, okay, you do not understand it, so it seems difficult, or you don't want to understand the complicatedness of it all, or you have lack of knowledge. What does it mean? Everything is interdependent in a software. Of course, things are interdependent. Yeah. If things are intertwined in a software, in a technology, in your system, then what are we talking about? Things are interdependent. It means nothing really. And those are the things that we are fighting in transformation. We're talking about transformation in 2026. It's still about driving out the ghosts, doing exorcism with that, against that kind of shit. We need managers, we need budgets, we need retrospectives, we need dailies, we need maintenance, we need a throat to choke.
We need to hold other people
We need Jira.
accountable.
We need Jira,
We
which was
need it.
another laughing stock at that company, because some people use it, but everybody hates it. So it's kind of sadomaso SM thing.
Yeah.
That seems to be the total SM stuff in companies.
Yeah, well, we already have a comment in here that's bringing us right into something that was here in 2026 that was not here in 2022 and
Okay, thanks
2023.
for commenting. That's lovely. Has this kind of structure changes since automatized via AI? We wish, right?
Yeah, we wish. We wish.
Structural changes in which people are embedded and you want to automatize them via AI. Yeah, but is that really a thing? I mean, you still have bosses, you still have meetings, you still have
Well,
this particular client. They use Slack a lot, and I remember when I used Slack, my life was hell. That was until about 5 or 6 years ago. It was really bad. Did I have decent communication ever on Slack? I don't think so. I think Slack is impossible.
well, it puts a barrier between people, and I think that's what we talk about. I mean, the Jira is the same, Remedy is the same, and what value does it serve? Yes, you need to keep track of the work. Yes, you need to know what you've done and what you are continuing to do, and it's also important to communicate with one another, which
But if the
comes.
structure, yes, may I interrupt? Very brilliant point. But if the structure of how you run the work is broken, then you will only talk about crap on Slack and Jira as well, and that's what
Mm,
TOSD is all about, right, Ryan? That's a very interesting observation that you make. It is important to track the work through Jira, Slack, or Microsoft Teams. But then again, are we tracking the work, or are we tracking the prioritizations, the story points, the estimation, all the bullshit that's constructed around the work?
is the tool, whatever the tool is it serving the communication that needs to happen? Right? Is it enabling? Well, and I have to bring back the most heretical term that you brought in with TOS is it's talk to each other. Oh my God.
TTO, yes.
TTEO, talk to each other.
Don't track each other. Talk to each other.
Don't track don't track each other, talk to each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And don't slack each other. That's what I say.
don't slack, don't slack, don't track, just talk.
Don't Jira each other. Nobody wants to be Jira'd.
But yeah, Jira as a verb. Now this is the first use of Jira as a verb. But
Nobody wants to be Jira'd. Oh my
yeah,
God, there's so many articles coming out of this, right? Even books, maybe.
yeah. Oof. Well, and again, we think about AI. AI is interesting. It's fascinating it is a superbly complicated tool to make things visible, right? And if you know what you're I mean, it can, but it all depends on what you put into it and what in the context that you know. And again, it's just another tool. Does that tool aid us as a in a partnership in delivering something, or is it just something that's here sitting between us and someone who wants to control what it is that we do? You know, is
That's
it
another
that?
kind. I just saw how corrupting the use of AI can be when you generate stuff with AI, then throw it out to clients or service providers and so on. I see terrible stuff going on. No
Yeah,
awareness for professionalism and quality, but aided by AI. I did it with AI,
yeah,
so it must be good. No, it's not good. It's just shit.
yeah.
Shit back from the internet, baby. I'm not talking about generating code. Generating code, of course, you can generate a lot of code, but as we know, you should never use the code you generate with AI without testing, checking.
And
Right?
is it and what is the code doing what we intended? And does it match the need that was expressed and articulated? And this gets me back in the whole AI topic is like, what is the transformational practice in 2026? And that the practice has to be cognizant of AI because that's the dialogue that's happening in alpha world. And so it's just another frame of using a tool as a power over mechanism. So
Mm.
that again, how does the new tool change the conversation? And I I, I don't know necessarily that it does. It's just plugging in You talk Slack, Jira, Remedy, Rally, whatever, or AI tool that you build that you're outsourcing. You're outsourcing the creativity somewhere. So,
yes, it is.
trying.
Because of course AI is not created. This leads us to the whole conversation that AI does not have ideas. If it seems like ideas to you, then you are lacking ideas. But what I think is marvelous about the AI hype is that it in some organizations at least, it raises the concerns. It raises a sense of urgency. So yeah, this client in Scandinavia, they really have to change their structures as well, because they know that they need to use AI more than in the past and better than in the past, and in smarter ways than in the past as well, which means that they should work in smaller items, instead of working by batches or very large or uncontrolled items. So one of the good reasons to adopt TOSD there is that the AI is here, it's unstoppable, and they need to have a better system, and TOSD gives them the whole discipline, to work.
Yeah, well,
wisely, to use AI more wisely. Right?
Use AI more wisely to help, to support talking to each other, to support meeting, coming to the okay point. How does this other entity aid our communication, talk to each other, so we can embody our STEAM agreements and deliver software on time, punctually,
yes,
and all that kind of stuff.
And talking of transformation in 2026, I mean, I still work with Pflaeging. This is also something that changed between 6 years ago when we met for the first time, and now something that I noticed. Maybe it's changing in my work or it's changing in the market. I'm working more continuously with some clients, over longer stretches of time than before. At the time when I worked with Thorsten Porath, for example, we did the transformation. That was it. I think we extended the work for half a year, and that was it. And now with Pflaeging, we'll have a more lasting work relationships, and we keep transforming stuff. Transform the structure in the first semester, transform the business model in the second, transform software development in the third. So we keep transforming everything. I'm really talking about overcoming systems and not just tweaking, optimizing, or kaizening things out. So at Pflaeging, I also see that they are still tweaking the TOSD system as well. Every 1 or 2 months, when Sebastian and I talk about TOSD and what's working and what's not working so well, where we are happy, where he's happy or unhappy, we find another tweak to TOSD that then we find is useful.
Sebastian being the CTO of Pflaeging.
Sebastian Kupsch, yes, the co-creator of TOSD, who's CTO at Pflaeging, and we keep talking frequently about TOSD. We just had a conversation today, and we always figure out different ways of tweaking the system, because to drive out these superstitions about software development, like the existence of maintenance and interdependence of items and that kind of stuff, it is not a 1 month, 2 month thing. It requires some time, and you keep recruiting, so you have to teach new arrivals the TOSD system as well.
Yeah.
There's another question to help clarify. What is the intended outcome via transformation? Is it very specific types of optimization? This is somebody who's new to the beta codex. Very good, very good.
Yeah, I saw the word optimization. I thought that would be an interesting.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for the questions. That's wonderful. Keep them coming. When we talk about transformation, we always mean from alpha to beta, from command and control to decentralized and responsive and democratic, or let's say from top down, bottom up fascism to democratization that's connected with decentralization and time orientation, usually, as we learned over the last few years. So when we talk about transformation, it's always about overcoming the system from one way of operating, Tayloristic command and control pyramid, to decentralized, democratic, sense and respond, the periphery is in charge, small team based, without steering. And And the way we're talking about this today in this session is also talking about from conventional software development within what I just said, talk about specifically about software development from waterfall or agile based kind of software development to time-oriented software development, which is without sprints, without batch processing, without software development teams, without steering, planning, estimation, regurgitating of schedules, and so on. Is that
yeah? Well, it's. I think we're talking about a more. Is it a specific kind of transformation? Specific in the sense that it is holistic, because when you engage the whole system, you're engaging with many specifics at the same time, and you're engaging with a large group coming together. Oh, this system, this has to flip. This flips. This stays. What are, and it's again, it's specific only after general. I don't know, but
well, I think there are specifics. If we talk about beta transformation, which is transforming organizations from command and control to decentralized, it means specifically to transform organizations. Organizations of all kinds, but to do it with entire organizations, which can be a company or a group of companies or a country system within a company, a larger entity, but it must be a closed a whole system. When we talk of TOSD or time-oriented software development, we're talking about systems of software development, which includes software developers of all shades and colors, from architects to designers to engineers to whatever, testers, DevOps, whatever it is.
It's a domain.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And again, you're talking about an intervention with either with a wholesale system or a bounded domain within that system.
Yes.
And which tells me also we're dealing with the financial domain. We're talking about relative targets
in beta transformation. Yes.
Beta transformation. Yeah.
Changing organizational structure, changing performance systems, changing HR and finance practices, dissolving stuff.
Getting rid of performance reviews, all of those kind of structures that result in the overall pattern of steering.
And I mean, connecting this back to the topic of what's the state of this transformation in 2026, I think the good news is since we figured out how to make this kind of transformation happen 8 years ago or so with open space beta, now people are finally starting to recognize it. I mean, just 2 or 3 weeks ago, one of the founders of Corporate Rebels went to one of the companies that transformed itself without right? Okay. There was a company visit in Mönchengladbach, and I think Joost of Corporate Rebels, hi Joost, he was pretty impressed and excited about the case. It's an amazing case. Sounds like an American.
That's the amazing race, not the amazing race, the amazing case. It's a survivor thing.
So and I think that's part of the story. It takes some time to make things happen and to make them noticed. When I started this work with the Beta Codex Network 18 years ago in 2008, I thought it would be super fast. I would transform companies and everybody would notice and shout out in excitement, and it just doesn't work like that. You do the work, and then some people notice, and some people talk, other people don't. Other companies that we worked with, there's a client in Austria that Silke worked with 3 or 4 years ago, and they undertook a wonderful transformation. But they haven't talked about it publicly. We haven't talked about it publicly because it's just not in the client's interest, and that also happens. So I'm also happy about the clients or the transformation cases that talk publicly, like AWO Mönchengladbach, wonderful organization in the space of care. So it's a local organization. So they have kindergartens and do all kinds of childcare, social work, and wonderful company, more than 250 people, and they've done. They are not satisfied with the original transformation that they did, I think, 5 years ago during COVID.
Yeah.
They keep changing and revolutionizing things. And now we even work with them together on a project with Comenius. So it's really exciting times. The things are finally coming together.
The ideas are disseminating, and they're spreading deeply.
They spread, and I think what's more powerful still is that there are connections beginning to form now, and those who really want to do this kind of transformational work, those that really care, they want more of it. They want to make more of it. They want to improve the impact. Like with Pratke, we've been doing so many things, and we keep working on improving their business model and their reach, and to prepare them for more growth, and now for the AI-induced changes in the business landscape. So it's the things are slowly forming what we call the beta universe, right? It's finally beginning to, the pieces are coming together. It's not like an idea and it works.
Well, so I'm thinking of a couple of the new innovations that have come. Even this year, in 2026, I think this year was the exactly. I was going to say the Weichselbaum, and you've been talking about Weichselbaum for years, almost since I first met you, and now in 2026, it's coming to fruition. So many things I had seen in the work over time were that they came into focus when I aided in the editing and translation of the book. The overcoming systems, and then you work the system, overcome the system, and that's not about it's not about changing the people. It's not about coercing the people. It's about the system. And the other thing that came to me as what is different, Weichselbaum came front and center with this, and time orientation, all how that relates. Also, that open space dev was brought out this year, and it was the way that you were doing open space, but this is this line in, I don't know about line in the sand, but this is the articulation about how in beta transformation we're moving this long-standing practice into
the
now
future.
into the future.
True.
Into the always arriving present, as I've now learned to call it.
Yes, I mean, that's something that happened last year, that I finally wrote a paper about open space dev, right? I think it was long overdue. I hope it's helpful for people. And for us, it's natural to do open space that way because we have been doing it for 10 years or so in that way. But it also became more, we conceptualized it more over time. We got more aware of the distinctions between conventional open space, because at some point we just said, we cannot stand the conventional open space practice. We have to do it differently. We cannot stand it for this and this and this. So what works better? This and this and this might work. And then we opted for something, tried it out, and confirmed how it could work differently. And clients like Avo, they just did an open space dev, open space a week ago, last week. Yeah, so it has become frequent practice for some of the companies we work with. It has become a common thing, among some organizations in the Beta Codex universe. And that's also a nice thing, that myself at work is being used by companies. Open space dev is being used frequently. Comenius is being used. And now TOSD is also adopted. So it's I see a certain dynamic unfolding that's very positive. There's really interest now in time orientation and software development. I get some requests from conferences. Let's see what kind of conferences will come up in the autumn.
Well, speaking of conferences, there's the conference in Sardinia, based on your new favorite topic, or maybe this was always your favorite topic of time. What came out of that conference for you? What are you bringing forward from that into the practice of time-oriented work systems today?
Boy, that's a tough question to answer.
Well, you can always say no. Let's fuck it. Let's go to the next question.
No, it was an interesting conference. I enjoyed it. I found it provocative and so on. But what are the specific inspirations that I got from my work? It's not much, I would say. I went to that conference. It was an academic conference for scholars on the topic of time. Yes. And what I do research that I would even call it scholarly, but not in the academic sense. The Beta Codex Network research papers, they are not academic. What I write on the Substack is not academic. Still, I think it is proper research, because it is progress oriented, it is insight oriented. It's not just opinionation pieces. I write some opinion pieces, so to speak. Some provocative pieces and some opinion stuff. But I usually strive for insight and fresh insight, new insight. That's what research should be about, right? Now, in Sardinia, did I get much insight? I got some. There was some interesting research. For example, there was some super fascinating research about young families with young children. The research was done in the Netherlands. The presentation was fascinating. How people deal with time, how couples, new parents, is that a correct term?
Yeah.
Just became parents because they have a little child, a baby or a kid. How they deal with time and what happens with it. I found that super fascinating because it's very related to work.
Yeah.
How we deal with time and the restrictions we create unknowingly, the conflicts we create, the misunderstandings, and we wreak havoc in our lives often because we have an improper understanding of time. Our time, our let's say, our savviness in dealing with patterns of time is lousy. Most people are time disoriented, let's say. Yes.
Ignorant of time.
There is a term that came up in the conference as well, and now I'm having it blacked out.
I think this also ties into
mastery of time.
Well,
and restrictions of time.
Well, you mentioned this being an academic conference, and when I think of the academic conferences that I have been involved with in the past, by the time the paper is written and by the time it is presented at a conference, it is irrelevant in many cases. I mean, maybe this is not your experience in this particular conference, but what strikes me about the beta work is that you mentioned, well, I'm not the academic. We do white papers, but they're not this kind of white paper. But they are white papers that represent solid theory in practice, and how is the theory developing, and what new insights is our practice of transformation? How is it informing our understanding of these theories, as opposed to let's spend 2 years writing a paper about this transformation case. We are doing this transformation case and continuously learning about it.
Yes, and what we try, of course, in our research, and this is I will come back to the conference in Italy in a moment, but we have discussed in several episodes how important it is to our work to connect the theory and the practice, and to go back and forth between theory and practice, and to connect it. Yes, and to not develop a disdain for theory, which some people have, and not to isolate oneself of practice, because that's why I think so many keynote speakers are not really good, because they have no clue of of neither theory and practice, really. Okay,
you're saying they're clueless. They have no clue of either, so they're clueless.
Yes, they are cynicked, as I like to say, or whatever they are, whatever they are. And at this academic conference, one thing that you talked about is correct. Of course, some of the academic papers, they are too rich in theory, in some theories absent, which is highly problematic, I think. Some are just theory and don't connect to reality, or they construct a theory that is irrelevant, bad theory, as Mr. Goschal or Mr. Levine would have called it. So it was all those things were present. Now, I'm not criticizing that. I went to that conference because I wanted to see what's going on. I wanted to hear the things that are said and not said, and read between the lines. So I'm not complaining. We all know the state of academia, and if you are in academia and you must produce those papers and publications, of course you are in a certain game, in a certain world and in your own universe, and need to produce stuff, and practicality is not often an issue, or is often not an issue, and so on. So to me, it was fascinating, and it's also, I want to see what other people in academia struggle with, what things they are. And of course, I found fabulous books just for fun about books and connect to those researchers. I met a wonderful person, Barbara Adam, who was born in Germany and now lives in.
Was this the Barbara Adam that Alan Bludorn was talking about in last episode? Okay.
She's an icon of the field, a legend. I met her in the airport in Munich already before the conference, so we had a chat. I gave her the Weichselbaum book on the plane to Sicily, to Sardinia already. It was hilarious. And at a certain point, I carried her bag as well, So that's wonderful.
How kind of you.
To meet one of my heroes was so wonderful. Some of the papers were brilliant, and others I would say, "Oh my God, okay, what are you doing?" But still, and some things were just interesting, to hear about, Japanese philosophers of the 14th to the 17th century who talked about time and understanding of time and religion. So it was fascinating. So many inspirations. Would I buy a book? Not necessarily, but still, I found.
I would say, I wanted to say something, because when I'm imagining you at the conference, I would say that you are probably talking to some of these thinkers. It sounds like you're having conversations with them to get deeper into their thinking, as opposed to reading with
and the evening conversations. Yes.
Yeah, that's the most enriching part, and that the insights that come from, I'm engaging with this person's thinking who produced this lovely 3-year-old theory.
But also, as and you asked me if time has always been a subject of interest to me. No, much the contrary, much the opposite. I remember 20 years ago or so, when I started being a consultant, I visited a company in Germany, and I do not even remotely remember where it was or what company it was, but the guy, the owner or entrepreneur, showed me around his office, and he said, all the decoration in our office is about time. So they had clocks everywhere. It wasn't disorderly. They had lots of clocks and illustrations about time and time scales and so on everywhere, and histories, depicted. So it was, and at the time I thought, time, what is interesting about that? That's banal. Yeah. So now I look back and I could slap myself for not having been smarter at the time. And I do not even remember the guy's name. I do not even he had it all, probably everything that I study now, he studied it at the time 20 years ago. So I would love to connect with the guy. I do not remember who it was, And so have I always been interested in time? No, I just started.
Well, the thing about
Rajan Zuri and Ian Glenday, who they brought me to this topic, and now for a year and a half, I've been buying all kinds of books. I'm really getting into it too.
Yeah.
I think by now I have become a scholar of time properly. I'm preparing another paper, as you know, on organizing. So
uncredentialed. Well, maybe this is kind of like me and Peter Block's work, is that when I read his work, I realized that it was already connected to the work I wanted to do. And when I hear this about your relationship with time, I'm looking back when the Beta Codex principles were developed. There's so much about this. It is, maybe it wasn't articulated in that way, but talking about releasing control from people. So we have the steering happens because of time. The flow, you're talking about flow for a long time. Now, what gets in the way of the flow? And what talks about the resource allocation and all of these things. And I'm imagining that when you put together the dots, and I remember a few months ago when you just like it like blew your mind that you totally went into this time orientation thing.
Yes.
That it was as if you saw the world that you were in from a different perspective.
True. Yeah, I
And
now see the future of organizing much clearer than I did a year and a half ago. That's
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Well,
And that was right. That was when I did the research on time-oriented work systems. Something I published, I think, June last year, so 13 months ago. That was the time when it started to click. And
this was the Grace Jones episode, right? Slave to the Rhythm.
Slave to the Rhythm. That's the title of the paper. Yes, and I think that work is so profound. I mean, the work. This is more about other people's work. That's why I can say it's profound. It's not my work. It's really I put together all these pieces. Toyota, the Weichselbaum system, quick response manufacturing, lean RFS, and it's such powerful stuff. And even now, I'm still learning about Toyota and what they really understood of time orientation. And there's a lot to learn. And also, I mean, it's very helpful to understand how time matters. In Comenius, the sessions are time oriented and time boxed. In Open Space Beta, we started to time box change and transformation with time oriented work systems. We create flow and rhythm and rhythmicity and takt and groove for entire organizations' value chains. And with time-oriented software development, the same for software development. And with time-oriented software implementation, we move into implementation projects and so on and so on. With Fast Close, we adopted the same thing for administrative or finance process. So time orientation has taken us to very interesting places.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like a lever and I'm hearing you, and this is integration. We talked about integration. What's there's also a depth that we get so much into time orientation. You wouldn't have known who Alan Bluedorn was necessarily before a few months ago. Discovered Ron Purser's relationship with that, the relationship with time. There's a depth of that going deeply into it for even the most recent article. That you have. This is wonderful about time time orientation in general. And then so there's the depth, the integration, and then there's the breadth. We're talking about the breadth across the different domains, different clients, all of these things that are happening now. That this is the state. This is the transformational practice that's happening.
Yes,
deeper, broader, and more integrated.
Yes, and one thing of talking about the state of transformation, beta transformation, and time orientation transformation in 2026 is also, I mean, as somebody doing this kind of work, don't you want to see this being confirmed, not just by cases, but also by theory and the sciences and philosophy? I want to see it confirmed over and over again. I mean, I know in my heart that beta is right, and I know it rationally, and there's all the theory that proves that beta works better than alpha, but time orientation is giving it another depth, another kick, so to speak.
Well, it experientially. I think that's the thing, is not only knowing it theoretically, but experientially. And you talked about, there's another thing that came up. I'm trying to think when the first time it was, from the perspective of the old, everything new is wrong.
The new is always wrong. Yes.
The new is always wrong.
Yes. From the perspective of the old, the new is always wrong.
Yes.
And
so the practice is a continual practice, because of, if you are oriented to a causal time relationship, that the future must always be an extension of the past, and that, if the old was this way, the new has to be this way. And that it's no, not necessarily. So I think, again, this is a constant that has, as the first time I came into the beta world, it's this idea that, you can't do things that way. This can't work. This won't work. And for a while I was caught up in that. I was like, I'm trying to convince you that that this is right. Well, you know what? I don't have to convince you of anything. That if
peel yourself like an onion, you can peel yourself apart and get to the inner core by yourself, but nobody can convince you. You have to.
Well, if you really, really want the new, you're not gonna want to take the old into another direction. You're gonna want to do something new. You're gonna want to have, and this came to me, what's recently, I mean, not recently, maybe in the last year or so, since I came into contact with the Peter Block work. There's an Old Testament scholar named Walter Brueggemann, who is very important to Peter's work.
Yes.
And one of the things that Brueggemann did is a book called Prophetic Imagination. And then in Prophetic Imagination, there is one part of it is a stark critique of what is the present. Yes, we're suffering. People are damaged and are suffering. But in addition to that, it's so important to energize the hope, and the hope for a future that maybe you don't understand quite yet, but there is a belief, and I hope you energize that hope towards a future that creates a possible and a future you want to inhabit. And you're not, yes, I understand reality. I'm not some kind of flake, but I understand reality. And I also at the same time am creating a prophetic vision, I would say. Not like you got to follow this vision, but you're naming a future. You're naming a future, and that future is called
I have
beta.
a dream. That's the same thing, right?
I have a dream. It's similar, but it's the fact that I have a dream. Follow it or not, I'm
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 there.
here. I'm here.
Yeah, I'm there
And,
even. Yes.
well, or now that we have the language of our friends who wrote the paper together, is that we are in this always arriving future. We are here. The future
We
is
are
here.
in this love together.
Yes, Al. My
We've got
now
the
my
kind that lasts forever.
yes. Oh wow! I'm singing that almost every meeting. People
Love that
who've
song.
been in.
It's one of those most amazing pop songs. Yeah. We're in
Love
this
it.
love together by Al Jarreau from the Pink album. What was it called?
I think it was called Jarreau. I think that was the album that was called
You think
Jarreau.
it's called Jarreau? I thought it was from the previous album. Okay, might be Jarreau. Yeah.
Wow. So what else is new? What's new? What we talked about? We talked about time orientation. We talked about TOSD in new cases. We've talked about how open space has changed. We talked about the depth, the breadth, and the integration of what is happening now. So yeah, what is the moment? What is in the moment now?
Yes, I think what I sense this, what I hope is that this year we will do more things. I see that there's more interest in the market right now in transformation. I think it's a feeling, but I feel that the long post-COVID drought might be coming to an end. But that's just, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overexcited. I'm so excited.
There's another one, not as good as Jarreau, but this brings me back to another media reference. I think it's this from the movie Network. Yeah, I think it was 1976, and this guy's screaming at the television like, "I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore." So maybe more people now are as mad as hell at Alpha, and mad as hell that now the scions of Alpha are taking this new tool, this new hammer of AI, and beating me with it, and I'm not going to take it anymore. Or like Twisted Sister would say, right? We're not gonna take it. No, do you remember that? You remember Twisted Sister?
I do not. I think I have to look it up. Twisted Sister. Okay.
You'll find it'll be hilarious. But I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. And then Twisted Sister that's the. So to sum up, the closer look at transformation in 2026, it is from a heavy metal song, a glam metal song from 1986. We're not going to take it anymore. So funny video too.
Very good. I will look it up.
Yeah. You'll hate it probably, but you'll.
But I think there's much more transformation that we accomplish now, as we now doubled the scope of it with TOSD, and I think we can invent more, create more ways, of doing transformational work with beta, and not just transforming entire organizations, but transforming bounded systems like software development and or project implement, software implementation projects. That's another kind of bounded system that we can work miracles on, and we haven't even started to touch upon.
Yeah, and I think now again, for me, transitioning from thinking globally to acting locally, what do these patterns of time orientation, of the beta patterns of dynamic authorization of mastery-based decision in a cell structure, how do we, if we don't have a non-porous organizational boundary, a sphere of activity, if you will, what are the patterns? What can we apply from the principles that are these first principles of I was going to say human centered, but we don't use that word around here.
I'm a firm believer in that.
Applying it to community, applying it to non-porous systems.
I once went to, as you know, I lived in Sao Paulo, Brazil for 12 years or so. And I never visited a favela in Sao Paulo, but I visited a favela in Rio. So on the first visit in Rocinha, which is a famous favela I think it's near Copacabana or Ipanema. I'm not sure exactly where it is located, but it's on a steep hill, at the flank of a hill. It's really big. 200,000 people live there, I think. And when I did this excursion, it was a guided excursion through Rocinha in Rio de Janeiro, a famous favela. And of course, everybody was a little unsure. I was speaking Portuguese fluently already, so I didn't feel so unsafe at all, because I could talk to anybody at any time. There was a drunk guy at the start of the tour. He kind of drew me close and said, "Do you want to see my gun?" And I said, like, not sure, but he showed it to me anyways. He had a
You're going to see my gun whether you want to or not.
Exactly. He was so drunk, I wasn't sure what to make of it. So anyway, he showed me his gun. And as we went on, our guide, she said, living in a favela, she said, I'm not poor, I'm not unemployed or so, but regardless what kind of person you are, how well you are, living in favela will drive out the best and the worst from people. And that's, of course, very, very true. Living in a place like that, it brings out the best and the worst in people. And work does the same. It's like a favela. Yes?
Work is like a favela. There's a quote.
Tend to bring out the worst from people. Beta codex organizations tend to bring out the best in people. So if you ask me, what's the social effect? What's the effect of our communities, of what we talk about here in this podcast and in our work and in the beta universe, I think fundamentally it's rooted in the belief that if we can transform organizations from alpha power over to beta power with, or from dumb software development systems to time-oriented software, which are much more democratic, much more discourse-oriented, much more, power with, as Mary Parker Follett would say. If we can do that, if we can sustain such work systems, then the effects will spill over into people's private lives, inevitably so. People who feel empowered at work feel more empowered to take a stance on their neighborhood or their country, their politics, their whatever, their family. They will behave differently. So hopefully beta organizations will, I believe in that they will do so, but hopefully it will be a lot, driving out positive behavior from people, better behavior from people.
Well, it's about a realization of the beauty of human nature. And when you get in the middle of that with some, bullshit power system, you disrespect people's human nature. We're talking about Maslow. We were talking about that. We're talking about McGregor. All these people who came into, they've been around for 50 or more years, that these theories are there, and they're speaking this truth about that power over systems. There was a time where there was no control, and control was needed. Thanks, Fred Taylor. Thank you for that. But then when we started to see in the world of work that these systems were tools for destruction of dignity,
Yes.
and that they were not respectful of human nature. The real human nature is we're social creatures
Yes.
who desire togetherness. And why not experience that togetherness at work? Why not
Yeah.
experience the
Exactly. What?
Giro factor? You know?
Yes, the Giro factor. I like that. I think work is the greatest playground for democracy, democratic encounter. Responsibility, care, empathy, and it can be the best playground for that. It can be we can waste all that potential, and it will be
Yeah,
potential wasted for the human beings who work and for our organizations and our societies. I would like to recommend a book that's related to that and that I think we never spoke of.
sure.
Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, kind of
Great.
an evergreen bestseller book,
Foundational book.
foundational book. It's very related to Peter Bloch's work, I think,
He,
to
he
Maslow.
is a big fan of the book. I know that for sure.
I'm not astonished. It's not surprising. Yes, yes. Of course, Kostenbaum, Bloch, Abraham Maslow, Douglas McGregor, they all refer to that in a way. Man's search for meaning. And Viktor Frankl was adamant about this. We need. You can only. Life has no purpose, but we all can and must construct purpose for our lives, or we will. If we miss this opportunity to construct purpose, to find purpose and make purpose in our lives, then it will be an opportunity lost not just for us but for our societies, and the worst things can come from that. So man's search for meaning it's not just fun, it's an obligation. I think it's probably in the Freedom book by Bloch and Kostenbaum. It probably appears, right?
Yeah.
I do not remember well which.
Sure.
Yeah. So yes, that's the obligation. And Beta Codex, why is it so rich and deep? I think because it allows us to connect to this spiritual perspective of life. We want to connect to meaning. We want to be part of something greater than ourselves. And work is the perfect place to do that. You can also do that additionally in your free time. We're getting engaged in politics, in your neighborhood, your city, and so on. There are ways to get engaged, and for family as well, of course. But work is a wonderful opportunity. Make organizations better, a wonderful opportunity.
Well, who doesn't benefit from better communication? And what human being doesn't benefit from better communication?
Yes.
And if there's that one foundational thing, is that power with, in order to have power with, there must be intimacy, there must be depth, there must be communication, and to coordinate effectively, there must be that communication. And the principles, laws, structures, and approaches of the Beta Codex are foundationally supportive of that.
Yes, to the quality of communication, which in the in TOSD we make it explicit with the TTEO principle. Talk to each other, damn it. Don't slack each other.
TTEODI.
Don't slack each other, don't mirror each other. Talk to each other, damn it.
Talk to each other, damn it.
And one thing, here's the final words, state of transformation in 2026. I always learn funny things in organizations. One of the things that resonated with my clients is DDAD, the DDAD principle.
DDAD.
DBAD.
Don't be a dickhead?
Yes, don't be a dick. Yes. You solved it. Don't be a dick. That's the second most important principle in Beta, in TOSD, and in life.
Amen. That mic drop from Niels. Thank you for your presence and being here in the lovely jam that we've had. Thank you out there for your time and attention, that precious gift that I always love to have. And we'll see you next time, hopefully very soon, with a guest, maybe two. We shall see. We did mention the name in the show, so you'll see. If you are an avid watcher, you'll know who we're talking about. So be that as it may, we'll leave you with that tease. Thank you, everybody, and peace out.